Kraft Mac and Cheese is better than 90s hip-hop. We'll remind you of your childhood without making you feel incredibly old. Kraft Mac and Cheese. Best thing ever.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With the all-new Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from good to excellent. Introducing the new Sleep Score on Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Most Haunted City on Earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And I'm JT Timmons.
And we are back with a Ghostmail and new lighting.
Ooh. For those of you who are just listening to the podcast, we're well lit.
We're very lit. There are so many lights pointing at us.
Yeah, with lights.
Yeah.
Not,
But we're also
we're not
lit with...
buzzing.
We're gearing up for the other side show, which is going to have a minimum of 4 people.
That's true.
Yes.
There's going to be a lot of activity in a tight amount of space.
A lot of romping and tomfoolery.
Romping and tomfoolery.
Yes.
Both.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, we are launching a second show, aside from One to Wicked technically being a second show.
It's
as well.
our third show.
So it'll be a third show. It'll be many a shows. There will be lots of things for you
We're
to
adding
view.
to the schedule, as
Yes.
it were.
And it is going to be a horror-themed improv show. So like Chris said, it's going to be a minimum 4 people, maybe more. So we're going to have a host who is going to be new to y'all. His name's Patrick Saxon. He's an amazing MC.
He's incredible.
Yes. And if you've ever come to visit the museum, you've probably met Patrick of
You
some
may have met him
form.
at one time. Or if you've been just in downtown Savannah and wondering how a man in a 3-piece suit could walk around in 100-degree weather, that's Patrick.
I wonder that often for him. But yeah, so it's going to be that. And then it'll be myself, Chris, Megan, and Justin, who licks everything. And I'm sure he will lick many things in this room as well. Well, are you surprised by this?
We need to lock down a contract.
And possibly Debria as well. You never know.
She's going to try it. She's going to try it out.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll force her.
We'll get her in front of the camera.
She's
Yes,
hilarious.
She is. My name is Madison Timmons,
I'm Chris Soucy.
and we're paranormal investigators who live in the most haunted city on Earth, Savannah, Georgia.
Whether we're in the studio,
We're out in the field.
we hunt for the stories and experiences where the veil feels thin.
Shout out to our Parajunkie family on Patreon. This show is only possible with you.
And remember, this is a judgment-free circle. Your experiences matter, your questions are welcome, and the weird is normal.
So cut the lights, turn the volume up, and journey with us into the most haunted city on Earth. I'm Madison,
I'm Chris.
and welcome to the most haunted city on Earth. We also have fun things going on at the museum coming up in December. Chris, would you like to tell them about our special guest?
Yes, we are going to be celebrating Krampus Night by having Krampus here at the museum. We're going to
can't
set
wait
up
to
a
meet
little
him.
photo op where you can come, and it's like when you get your picture taken with Santa. Instead, it's a giant demon that beats you with sticks.
How did you get a hold of him?
Oh, well, I have a long history with Krampus. Me and Krampus, we go way back. We're tight.
Okay. All right. You just got a direct line to hell.
No, he doesn't live in hell.
South Pole?
It's Germany.
He lives in the, yeah.
It's just Germany.
He lives in the Alpines. He's in Austria most of the time, and he goes back and forth through Bavaria. I met him when I was 6 years old for the first time, and it was a scarring event that I want to share with everyone.
Were you bonded by first stick?
Yes. It's lovely to think that Santa Claus has a pet demon that'll beat you.
He's my favorite. Besides the gorilla.
The gorilla is quickly going up in stature for me because that's just a wild creature. We'll revisit this holiday season.
Which was also progress for Chris, because when I first presented the gorilla to Chris, he was not as big of a fan of this.
No.
It took many years to
I do not
simmer.
like the concept of balloons that are natural, that happen on your body and you keep children in them. That bothers me still to this day. It's kind of like that trypophobia with the
sure.
holes.
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
I got
so
that.
Don't like that. We have gotten off course here.
Yes,
Well-
we sure
But
have.
we will have Krampus December 6th, which is Krampus night.
Yes.
So come, bring your kids, bring yourself, get a picture with Krampus.
And our next episode, which is not going to be next week because we are taking a bye week for Thanksgiving, but our next episode is going to be all about Krampus. It's going to be a deep dive on Krampus. So it's going to be
Excellent.
amazing.
Deep dive Krampus.
Perfect. So you have lots to look forward to if you're missing spooky season as we go into the holly jolly festivities. But yeah, I'll try to get back on track. But I know I'm just thinking about how Santa truly is a jolly prowler. Because in reality, he's the scariest of them all.
He really is. He is watching you
He's always watching,
always.
which always disturbed me
Right
personally.
now, Santa Claus is watching you. When you're in the shower, Santa Claus is watching you.
And that's even
When you
worse.
sleep at night, Santa Claus is watching you.
Who's ready for ghost mail? Yay! Do we have a sound effect?
Huh?
Do we have a sound effect to usher us in?
I turned them off because of the neighbors. I didn't want to disrupt their auditions.
Oh.
I know.
You've got ghost mail.
Yeah, Chris,
You've got ghost mail.
That's basically what it sounds
There you
like.
go.
Yeah. All right, we make do. Anyways,
We'll fix it in post.
we'll fix it in post.
By the way, if it's not fixed in post, blame JT.
yes. Or to
blame Debria.
Or
well,
both.
no, I'm the director. It would be on me. Never mind.
All right. Well, so this is actually going to be an all parajunky ghost mail because somehow y'all managed to send in 3 ghost mails in a row, all from parajunkies. So
Awesome.
I don't know if you guys like planned that or not, but we're
But it goes
here.
with the trend. We have noted that oftentimes when we read ghost mails, they are connected in some way, and this one's an obvious connection right off the bat.
So the first one comes from Parajunkie MJ, and that's Maria. I know I saw you somewhere in the feed a little bit back, but Maria said, "Hi guys, as I wrote on a previous YouTube comment, I first started watching your videos a few months ago, and they have quickly turned into my very happy weekly occurrences for me." That's my phone buzzing.
Oh.
Fear
I
not.
swear I thought that was this instrument. I was like, is this instrument?
The
making a weird
instrument.
sound?
No, that is my phone.
All right.
But I'm from Costa Rica. Very fun.
Lovely.
Awesome. And
lovely, lovely country.
ever since I was a kid, I've loved weird occurrences and folklore from all over the world. So I look forward to your updates and love spending that bit of time connecting to the supernatural. I feel validated by the experiences I hear about and love the judgment-free take on all the experiences you talk about. It's hard to find that acceptance out in the world when you experience things others don't. That's true. That is some tea. Now, with that said, I have a couple of stories for you today. The first one is about me and my journey to get to know myself better. You see, I was unfortunately out of sync with my body and myself and was barely living a life for the longest time. I was able to make it out of that bad situation and can report my life is calm and I am surrounded by very supportive people now. I have also been able to reconnect with myself and even started to use the tarot to delve deeper into my motivations and dreams. Love that. We love to hear that. It's been quite a journey and has brought things along. It has brought things along that I did not expect. I have discovered I have a bit of an ability, and that ability is precognitive dreaming. Ever since I started working more on my mental health and my physical well-being, I've started to have dreams about situations that come to pass quite close to the dream. These are vivid and strong dreams, the kind you don't forget when you wake up. The most notable being a dream I had about my living grandmother. She presented herself in the form of a black owl, but I had complete certainty she was indeed my grandma. She was wounded, struggling to fly, and I was certain she was very ill, even though there was nothing immediately clear about the illness in the dream. Fast forward a couple months, and she was diagnosed with cancer and has been suffering from this ailment for the last year or so. I've had a few dreams since then, all of them letting me know of things that are coming my way. They are mostly about changes in my life, or they just let me know I should connect with someone specific who is close to me. It's funny how you can continue to learn things as you grow older. Learning about yourself and the world around you never really stops when you are open to it. On that note, last Halloween, I learned a couple of new things myself, and those are, 1, Do not mess with things you don't fully understand. Always a good rule to live by. And 2, don't go calling out for spirits at random. You never know if a mean something happens to be passing by.
That's solid advice.
That is very solid advice. Everybody needs to follow that type of advice. I had the chance to learn those 2 things on a city walk I took with a few friends and my partner. We were super excited to be walking around San Jose at night with a guide that would be telling us spooky history on freaking Halloween. Best idea ever. We got our costumes on and we joined the group at one of the most beautiful parks in the city's historical center. Both me and my partner decided to wear long yellow raincoats like the one Georgie wore when he played with the paper boat in It. And had the best time because it rained a lot that night. Honestly, that is probably the most practical costume.
It's a solid costume for the weather. Absolutely.
Yeah. We started the walk hearing a story about a vampire that lurked around the park at night, and the guide narrated the different encounters people had reported over the years. Once the story was done, we started walking elsewhere. Everyone was happily spooked and walking in a close group through the streets, staying close together as we needed to hear the guide over the night city traffic. I remember we walked and listened to all sorts of things that had happened through various stages of the city's history. But I remember being particularly surprised to hear that the Spiritism craze of the Victorian era had not been overlooked in Costa Rica either. I actually did not know that. That's super interesting.
It was a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah.
It absolutely set fire to all corners of the civilized world.
Following the fashions of Europe, we also imported the ideas of Allan Kardec, a famous French spiritist, and even had famous mediums of our own who conducted seances and led occult societies among the elite of the country. I remember I then wondered how it would feel like to make contact with something, and that it would be a fun experience to experience something like that on Halloween night. Fun.
Dun, dun, dun!
So I invited the spirits around me to make contact. I remember I felt the request deep in my gut, like I was about to jump, or that sinking feeling you get when you are nervous about something. I also remember I sort of tuned out to what was happening around me for a second. Anyway, I came out of the feeling, and I thought nothing had happened. I laughed at myself for being so silly and continued focusing on the guide's story. At no point did I hang back from the group or separate myself from my partner and friends. We continued walking, and as we were about to wrap up the tour, my partner looked weirdly at me and asked me if I was hurt. I looked at him confused, and he pointed to my left shoulder and asked me if I was okay, and did I get a burn on my raincoat and not notice? I looked at my shoulder, and yes, there was a perfectly circular burn on my raincoat that reached through all the layers it was made of, but didn't reach my shirt beneath it. It looked exactly as if somebody had put a cigarette out on my shoulder. It even smelled like tobacco. My friends noticed as well. My partner asked if they had seen someone approach me. They said they hadn't, and I knew no one had walked up to me. I knew I didn't feel it or see anyone near me. It was too hard to be in the middle of the group and not notice if someone was smoking right next to you. And not only that, it had been raining the whole time we were walking around the city. My raincoat was soaked. I think it's safe to say I made contact last Halloween with some sort of trickster. I was not harmed, but I was sure as hell spooked and taught a lesson. I hope you guys enjoy my humble stories. I've had tons of fun writing them out for you. Good vibes all the way from Costa Rica. Maria Jose Cespedes. Feel free to call me MJ.
Those were great.
Those are excellent stories.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a very common ability that a lot of people find when they're first starting to connect with their own sense of spirituality is dreams, because oftentimes that's the only place our brain can get to us if we're not aware of the spiritual messages coming in when we're out doing our day-to-day life. So it makes a lot of sense to have those experiences. And also, just a sidebar, I'm very sorry to hear about your grandmother, and we send her very good energy and hope that she finds some type of relief here in the future. But yeah, it's that also can very well be something from your spirit guides of some sort, preparing you in a way to receive that information, because anytime you get a diagnosis like that, it's going to take time to process. And sometimes if you can get a heads up, it helps kickstart that process or at least alleviate the shock that comes with it. But yeah, I would definitely say anytime you have a dream that you feel is prophetic in some way, I recommend getting a journal and just writing it down. Because it sounds like you have a good grasp on remembering the dreams, but sometimes we can forget very minute details that don't feel important, but later down the line, it might come into play with whatever was being prophesized of sorts. So it's always good to be able to reference what you're dreaming about. But otherwise, with the other story, yeah, you definitely made contact with something.
Yeah.
I don't know who it could have been. It very well could have been just a random entity that's, hanging out in this area. And it's not uncommon for spirits to have that smell of tobacco or smoke and whatnot because...
We actually just recently had a long conversation about it because Emerald Dean collects cigarettes. People will leave cigarettes for her. And we started talking about the long tradition of tobacco and spiritualism and spiritualists and how a lot of people use tobacco because there was a time when tobacco was a ritualistic herb to burn it, to smoke it, to share in it was to kind of create this barrier because the idea of smoke, inhalation, is to take in something that is actually like the spirit of an item. So if you have like a leaf that you set on fire, it's like the smoke is the spirit of that leaf. It is being released from the destruction of the physical body. And so some people think that the act of using tobacco is a bridge between one realm and the next. In Chinese culture, they'll put messages on pieces of paper and light the paper on fire, thinking that when the message burns, it is visible to the ghosts, that the other side can see it because
that's interesting.
Because it has left this plane.
Right.
And it's like, and I think that practice is kind of widespread in all these various ways where we honor the burning of incense, the burning of tobacco, using fire in all forms of ceremonies, lighting candles at churches in remembrance of people. All these things are acts where we assert that the smoke actually carries intention and magic and all of these things to the next realm.
Yeah, and it makes sense too because if you look at any plant in the world, if it comes from the earth, it has a metaphysical property attached to it. So that already has it going for it. But smoke is also considered a part of the element of air. Mm-hmm. And so when you have elemental sort of factors involved, it's a little bit easier for spirits to manipulate, if you will, versus something that is man-made or a little bit energetically dense, if you will. A lot of times that is why you get those residual hauntings of the smell of smoke or things like that, or rooms will look hazy. Yeah. But yeah.
We even called for the longest time the spiritual realm the ether, which actually means air, which actually means this air realm. And so always trying to peer into the ether or to draw upon the ether. And the smoke is a sort of a barrier between our world and the next.
I just feel like the spirit could have done something else to try to communicate with you.
I don't know. I mean, that suggests an intent of sort. It's like
sure,
when a spirit has enough ability to actually like destroy something physical or to do that kind of damage, that gives you a clearer indication of what kind of spirit you're dealing with. So you're lucky that it didn't persist, or that you didn't have more encounters, or maybe you did. And we'll have to, look out for more ghost mails in the future.
Yeah, and it was Halloween too, so
that's true. It was Halloween.
No telling.
It might have been the vampire.
Honestly,
that's
a good point.
Vampires are notoriously unhappy when you tell stories about them.
They don't like to be perceived. They have their own society.
Coming up behind you with a cigarette. I'm a vampire, blah.
Leave me alone. I like to hang out in my park in peace. Looking for blood.
Blah, blah, blah.
But yeah, MJ, thank you so much for sending in those stories. Those are phenomenal. And The next one comes from Parajunkie Jessica. And I don't know if we saw Jessica in the chat, but if this is your story, make yourself known. But PJ, Jessica's...
Yep, there you go.
Yes, excellent. I love this. This is always fun when you guys are in the chat, when we can actually read the stories, because sometimes we do have questions, especially. It's nice when we have...
And for those of you who are new to this or are just listening, we are actually recording live, and we have our Parajunkies up, and we can read their comments as they interact with us as we read these ghost mails.
Yes. So Jessica said, "Hello, I am writing to you about an experience or experiences I had when I was much younger, and a little update, I guess. I lived in a New England town in Massachusetts near the Cape called Marshfield. The house I lived in was a somewhat newer house. However, the foundation was built on the foundation of a barn of a prominent person from the community, Daniel Webster."
Wait, Daniel Webster?
No, that was a valid reaction.
Not the
Yes.
Daniel Webster.
I mean, probably.
Okay, well.
Yeah, Jessica. Yep, Jessica confirmed that is the Daniel Webster.
The lawyer who took down the devil?
Yeah. And I think that's why we have Ghostmail about it. But
That's awesome.
Yes. To the point where you could walk in the basement and see like the stones that made up the foundation of the barn. My room was on the second floor of the house, and I had a weird quirk where my bed faced the door and I couldn't fall asleep if the hall light was on because the light would seep through the door. I can't remember when it started, but I would have these experiences where the light would turn on in the middle of the night. Sometimes this was due to my mom getting up at night. Typically, if it stayed on, I would call out to her to turn the light off, and she would turn it off. And sometimes the light would remain on, and I would get up and turn the light off. Then I would go back to my room, and I would lay back in my bed, and the light would turn back on to the point where, like, the switch itself would actually change, like, go up and down, and I would get up, and I would turn the light back off, and this would happen a bunch of times. I would eventually check, and everyone else in the house would be asleep and clearly not the one turning the light on and off. And eventually I would get to the point where I would get frustrated and speak sternly and say, "Okay, enough. We're done for the night. I need to sleep." And then it would stop. At least they're respectful if they're going to be nuisances. I would find the other things happened in the house, like things would move around or radios would turn on and off when I was in the room, things that like couldn't really be explained. I just assumed that there was a ghost, to be honest, and when I would tell it to stop screwing with me for the night, it would listen. I was later told by my mother that she had a party with her friends or someone who was either a tarot card reader or a medium or something of that sort, came over and told her that there was a ghost in the house that really liked her daughter and that I had good energy, but it was a nice ghost overall. Granted, this was secondhand information. Well, I always assumed it was the grandmother of the family that owned the house before. I have not lived in that house in almost 20 years now, and I was deciding to send this story for you, and I don't know the people who live in the house now, so I was just doing some Googling to see if there was anything on the internet of ghosts in my town or anything like that to see if any of the people that lived in the house after me had experiences they put anywhere. And when I happened to look up the information, a lot of sites said that a historic house that was a couple houses down from me that I used to volunteer at very regularly was actually haunted. So now I don't know if it was one of their ghosts that kind of followed me home at night or if it was the ghost of the house. I included an article below that talks about the Winslow house, and coincidentally, the barn that my former house was built on was Daniel Webster's barn. So, the article reads, Haunted Places on the South Shore. The house was built in 1699 for Judge Isaac Winslow, the son and grandson of colonial governors Josiah and Edward Winslow. Winslow family members occupied it until 1822, and prominent people from Marshfield, including Daniel Webster, later worked to preserve the property, which is still used for historical and other functions. Paranormal activity. Born in England, Penelope Pelham Winslow moved to Massachusetts at age 8, the daughter of Harvard College's first treasurer. She married Josiah Winslow in London and returned to Plymouth Colony 4 years later. She spent the final 5 years of her life at the home of her son, Isaac, in Marshfield, and is still believed to pace the halls and open and close doors at the centuries-old mansion. And that was for the property that is 634 Careswell Street in Marshfield. So there's a couple of them. And 739 Washington Street in Quincy was built at the Four River Shipyard, where it now resides as a floating museum. The USS Salem was in action for 12 years in the Mediterranean and the Atlantic. The heavy cruiser's guns never fired before it was decommissioned in 1959. A team from Mass Paranormal reported high-level activity on the ship, including a ghost named John and an unseen woman telling them to get out. Their investigation came after repeated reports of unexplained noises and ghost-like experiences. So I'm assuming because that first one was the Marshfield one, I'm assuming that's the one. But you got a little bite-sized ghost ship too.
Yeah,
for that
there
matter.
you go. Love a good ghost ship.
Yes.
I actually did a deep dive on the Flying Dutchman recently.
The
Fascinating
Flying
story.
Dutchman?
Yeah, we can do an episode on it. It's bizarre.
It is a very bizarre story. But yeah. Honestly, Jessica, when you're in New England, you're very likely to have a paranormal experience. The whole area of New England in general is just rife with energy from all the amounts of battles that have happened up there. The colonies that were being built, that's going to have a lot of energetic impression left upon a land, because it's literally changing the whole structure of it, and it's the way the energy moves through the area. And on top of it, a lot of dead people, a lot of diseases, a lot of Native American burial grounds. So
lots of indigenous struggle right when the colonizers arrived.
Right.
Lots of trouble.
Yes.
So I see just a great series of opportunities, and then on top of it, when you have something prominent, some prominence to it, that keeps it fresh in people's minds. Being able to say things like, "Oh, that's Daniel Webster's old stomping grounds,"
right,
keeps it active as a place of note. And whenever you give a place some type of adherence or reverence for its history, that history becomes more vibrant in the space. That's kind of what happened to Savannah. Savannah as a large-scale place where the history is really doted upon by so many people, that history becomes very refined and very solid, and then can present itself to a wider range of people with even less psychic abilities, but you don't need as much psychic ability when so many people are supporting the knowledge of the place.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I am not surprised to hear that. I saw that you said that you have had lots of experiences, so we'd love to hear more about those.
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
want to write them in anytime. But yeah, I think the craziest part was hearing that someone picked up that this spirit particularly liked you.
That's never great.
Yeah.
I mean, even when they're nice and benevolent, you just don't really want the attention of a spirit in that way. You don't want a spirit being like, "I like that one."
Right. That's typically spirits should, in theory, just do activity to get the attention of any human that is willing to either interact or perceive what they're doing. But when they specifically
call you out.
Yeah, call you out and do things that they know are going to get a reaction out of you particularly, it makes me question what the entity is. And
the whole turning on the
Yeah.
lights, turning on electrical equipment, the idea of having a piece of electric equipment on, the light switch on, completing that circuit, it means that it is running electricity in a pattern. And that is a very desirable thing for a spirit, because spirits can consume electricity. You hear it all the time in ghost hunting shows. I just changed the batteries in this thing, or there's no way that we could have drained all this electricity. It's because electricity seems to be a very easy source of energy for spirits. So when they're turning lights on, it's probably them charging up. They're needing more energy
Right.
and wanting more energy to do something, to present themselves to you. And if they're capable of turning the light switch, that is an immense,
That's power.
psychic power.
Yeah.
I always say, when people are always like, "Oh, get the ghost to move something," it's like, do you have any idea how hard it is? If I try to move something with just my mind, that's how hard it is.
Right.
It's not like ghosts are given special abilities. They are only given levels of energy.
In Walmart's Hoonuville, everyone ready their cart. Amazing Black Friday deals are about to start. Online and in the app, such great deals to explore. Everything you love from tech, toys, and more. The days to save and the ones to remember. It's only the 25th to the 30th of November. Set your alarms. Don't miss out. These deals are epic, without a doubt. The Who's are all ready, but are you? Walmart Black Friday deals await. Who knew?
We find Vecna, we end this once and for all, together.
On November 26th.
We have a plan. It's a bit insane. Everyone in?
He knows where we are. Watch out! Get ready for one last adventure.
We stay true to ourselves. Stay true to our friends, no matter the cost.
Found you. Stranger Things, the final season, begins November 26th, only on Netflix.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a malevolent entity. If it has that type of energetic sway, it can also be children. Children's spirits have a lot of energy, and they have a lot more rain.
Far more self-sufficient energy-wise, because a child can feed itself using its own imagination and observation. And yes, you mentioned that the radio comes on as well, and radios and electrical equipment all have the same kind of property, because in a radio is a receiver of very specific waves and patterns of waves, and that kind of thing is very attractive to spirits as well. And that's why we use radios and televisions to communicate with spirits, is because that is an attractive type of energy monitoring that is done through a radio or through a television that is receiving over-the-air broadcasts.
Yeah, and when it comes to how the spirit got there, it very well could have chosen this place because it's notable. They know that it's going to get attention because of the historic nature of it. But you also said that you volunteered at that other property, so it's quite possible something could have saw you, taken a liking to you, and went home with you. There's a number of different reasons that can happen. But yeah, again, we'd love to hear more stories about your property here. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that you can say, I lived where Daniel Webster lived. Maybe he conjured the devil right there. You never know.
Well, he was, so formidable a lawyer that, he's practically a folk hero for being a good lawyer.
Exactly.
And how often have you heard of a good lawyer? That's pretty rare.
Literally. Yeah, I mean, lawyers were literally banned from the city of Savannah in our beginning.
True.
So
the original 4 prohibitions, lawyers were among them.
Which is understandable to a degree, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much, Jessica. Love all these stories that are coming through. All right, this one's for you, Chris. This one is from PJ Raven. And this is a possible Hatman and Grandpa Guardian Angel story.
Ooh, all right.
What the email subject said.
Wait, are you going to say that your grandfather is Hatman? Because that would answer a lot of questions.
Yeah, literally. That would.
Or raise a lot more questions, I should say.
Yes. Hi, guys. I go by Raven on Patreon. Longtime listener, but first time writing a Ghostmail. I'm either incredibly haunted... That's a great way to start this. Or very sensitive, because I seem to have experiences almost anywhere I go. So I don't take up too much. Of your time. I'll try to keep this email short and limit how many stories I put in. Number 1. When I started listening to your podcast, I was blown away by the amount of Hatman stories. We're with you on that one. We
have an unofficial ongoing investigation now
literally,
into Hatman.
We didn't realize the floodgates that we were opening when we discussed Hatman, but I never knew there was a name for him before your podcast and had no idea he was an almost universal experience. When I was really young, I want to say between the ages of 2 and 10, I regularly had Hatman experiences. At the time, we lived in a shitty townhouse on a busy 6-lane street. Oh my God. In a shitty neighborhood in Southern California. All the bedrooms were on the second floor, and all of them had their own mini balconies attached. There were old rotten wooden railings on those balconies, and looking back on it, I'm not quite sure how they didn't blow over in the wind. I should also add that since we lived in a bad neighborhood, my parents kept all the doors locked at all times. This will be relevant later. I can't say I remember all the experiences I had while we lived there, but sleep paralysis and the Hat Man were the most common. My Hat Man was not a lurker like most stories I've heard, but instead would try and lure me out of bed.
Ooh. Oh, no.
This is going into the Hat Man Rolodeck.
Yeah. Hat Man Curiosity number 3.
Literally. He may not have been a hat man at all, but he fits the description of a shadowy figure wearing a hat.
That's really all that we need.
It requires, yeah. I remember at first he would motion me to come play with my toys. Absolutely not.
No.
No. And like, what is there any other manipulation tact that they can use that's not like, come play with me? Like, that's so weird. It's a weird choice, Hat Man. And if I did, he would step back and stand in the doorway watching. Ew. Eventually, it progressed to him opening the sliding door to the balcony. I was terrified of heights, still am, so I would never follow him out. This seemed to annoy him, and he would disappear when I refused. After 2 to 3 failed attempts to lure me onto the balcony, it switched tactics and ushered me to follow it downstairs. When I finally followed it, our front door was wide open, and he was trying to get me to come outside. I assume onto the street. Luckily, my dad woke up before I got outside. He slept downstairs on the couch due to a bad back and was able to grab me before I got any further. I can only imagine what would have happened if I'd been successful in following my Hat Man. Eventually, we moved, and I stopped having Hat Man experiences. Number 2. I'd like to preface this next story by letting you know I grew up in a not-so-great household. My parents were mentally and verbally abusive, fueled by alcoholism. My grandparents on my mom's side, affectionately named Nana and Papa, were the only ones who gave me unconditional love, and my Papa was my best friend growing up. I'm not seeking sympathy or pity, but instead letting you know the reasoning for my ways of thinking. At the time of the story, we had moved to a house at the top of a steep hill in a small town in the Mojave Desert. With not much around, the nearest city was 30 minutes away. My dad had moved about an hour away to take care of his mom and run her trailer park, so it was just my mom and I. At the time, my papa had passed away due to complications from cancer and the chemo treatments within the year this story takes place. Even though I've had so many experiences, until this experience, I never really believed that relatives come back to check on or help the living. I just thought it was something people said to cope with the grief of losing a loved one. There was a night we didn't have anything to eat in the house, and being a night owl, all the local options in town had closed, so if I wanted to get food, I had to drive to the next city over. I was 21, 22 at the time, and my first car was my papa's old 97 Honda Accord, a month older than I am. So I grabbed my keys and made the drive over to the nearest open fast food place. While in the drive-thru, the car overheated and let out a billow of smoke from under the hood. I panicked. I got my food. There were cars in front of me, so I had to wait anyways, and sat idle in the parking lot trying not to hyperventilate and figure out what to do. I didn't dare turn off the car because I was terrified I wouldn't be able to get it to start again. I didn't have the money for a tow truck. Calling my dad wasn't an option because he was so far away. I didn't have any friends who lived in the area, and my mom was passed out drunk at home. And I'd be damned if I poked a sleeping bear. I didn't see any other options, so I made the decision to attempt to make the 30-minute drive home. I put in my hazards, stuck to the back roads, and drove like a granny. Honestly, the best way to handle that type of situation.
Absolutely.
45 minutes later, I made it to the bottom of the hill and started repeating, "We're so close, just make it to the top of the hill." Sure enough, it made it up to the top of the hill and died the exact second the whole car was on the driveway. It doesn't sound paranormal, but I'm convinced that my papa kept it running long enough to make it home. It should have died much sooner, especially when the grade of the hill got steep. But it didn't, and I have no explanation for how or why it was able to make it. 2.5. Building off of the last story, I struggled after Papa passed. Due to undiagnosed mental conditions, I struggled to make friends, so for a long time, he was my best and only friend. Growing up and into early adulthood, our favorite activities were playing card and board games. About 6 months after he passed, I started having reoccurring dreams that I was back at my Nana and Papa's house. He was still alive, and we were playing games while my Nana cooked dinner. The more I had the dream, it started to shift. Eventually, I became conscious in the dream and would try to tell him he had cancer. And as the dream took place years before he passed, if he went to the doctor, then maybe they could catch it early enough and do something. He would never acknowledge me telling him to go to the doctor. I would wake up bawling from these dreams. I was having these dreams on and off for about another 6 months. The last time I had the dream, I started pleading with him to go to the doctor and we could save him. I believe his spirit came through in the dream because he finally acknowledged that what I was saying, and he told me, "It's okay. I'm okay now. You don't need to try and save me. I'm not in pain anymore." I woke up bawling from the dream again, but it was the last time I had that dream. I'm now a firm believer that loved ones can come back, and hopefully this wasn't too long, and if you liked my stories, I have a bunch more I can send it. Raven. Awesome.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, on it. And again, please send your ghost stories. We always enjoy it, and as always, send the details, because details give us context, and it can sometimes help when we're trying to decipher what a spirit might be or what the intentions might be. And sometimes those minute little details are the key to figuring that out. But
yeah, for instance, your Hat Man trying to get you outside of the building, there's a lot of lore about the protections of being inside your house and creatures luring you out. Luring you outside your house makes you vulnerable to specific types of attacks. These are mostly, categorized in the demonic realm, because houses become insulated against certain evils through familial pacts. Even when you're not religious, even if you're, having all these things, a lot of times the interior of your house is protected simply by the notion of the faith inside you that you're safe in your house. Going home should be that act of cutting off the rest of the world. So yeah, there's a lot to it. I'm fascinated by that concept of a spirit trying to get you out. And, part of me is like, well, maybe it was trying to get you out of a bad situation, out of a house that was full of negativity and negative spirits and negative force. Problem was, it was trying to get you out on a balcony that you yourself said was dangerous.
right.
And got frustrated when you wouldn't go out on the balcony. And that kind of makes me think that it may have been malevolent and hoping to cause you some kind of suffering. Yeah, interesting. And as far as your grandfather spirit is concerned, yeah, the most common ghost story in the world is that our loved ones come back to tell us that they're okay. Mm-hmm. That's the message. And sometimes we can't hear it because we have our own connections and obstructions to hearing the message. So, we're trying to make them okay, but they're trying to tell us they are okay. And that's what causes recurrent dreams and recurrent things, is the message isn't getting through, But when it finally does get through, you can finally embrace the truth they're trying to give you. Mm-hmm. And that has its own worth, and that has, great and intense value to know that love continues after death, and that the message is almost always, I'm okay now. I'm not in pain. Everything's good. With a few exceptions, that is generally the story that we hear.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's when it comes to family members coming back through in dreams, it always goes one of two ways. Some people complain, they're like, why are they not visiting me in my dreams? And that can literally be because it's going to hinder your grieving process. And our spirits, our loved ones that have passed, they know that. They can see that. And they're not, unless they're a bad person and they purposely want to give you a hard time. It's, Which again,
rare. Yeah. It does happen, but surprisingly rare.
Yeah. And so those are the situations where it's like, that's why they're not showing up to give you that message, because you need to deal with this grief and this reality. And sometimes adding that paranormal aspect brings you out of reality, where you start to push away the magnitude that is grief. But other times our spirits can tell that this is the closure that you need to continue forward in your life. And it sounds like your papa, especially because of how you describe him as, you know, he was your best friend, you know, so he knew you probably better than anybody. And he, of all people, is more than likely going to be the one to tell you, like, you need to keep moving forward. You can't dwell on the emptiness of the hole that I left behind, because you're still alive and you need to keep living. And I think that's a wonderful story. And those are the best ghost stories to hear.
Absolutely.
You know, we always love talking about the scary, scary stuff, like your Hat Man story. To be honest, that's horrifying. But it's always really nice to hear the sweeter ghost stories, because those are the most common ones that a regular person in their day-to-day life is going to experience. As for your Hat Man story, though, I think that's the first time we've gotten a Hat Man that was trying to lure somebody out of the house. We've heard the Hat Man trying to get in before.
Yes.
But
standing outside the window, not being able to get in, watching from outside the door. So, that was the first time that it was actively trying to pull you away. And it's funny because we also have one other story where the Hat Man spoke.
Yes.
And it's like, those are anomalies. You know, that's different
Right.
than other stories that we've heard.
Yeah, so it's like, technically, in our minds at least, that goes into the Hat Man folder. But you're absolutely right in the way that it very well could be just a different entity, and it just doesn't have a any sort of recognizable form.
Well, and that brings up the whole Hat Man question. Why is it in that form? And that form is probably something in our subconscious that we recognize and that we understand. So, you know, entities, wide number of entities can show up in that form.
Absolutely. But honestly, y'all, these were all lovely ghost mails.
Yes.
Y'all killed it with these stories. And it's, like I said, it's always really nice when we get to have information from the actual person who sent it in right there. So thank y'all for joining us on the live stream. This is all we have for y'all tonight. But if you have a ghost story you'd like to send to us, you can send it to ghostmail@hauntedcitypodcast.com. And like we said, we like all the details. Feel free to send a novel practically. That's fine by me. But thank y'all so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day whenever you're listening to this. And my name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And stay spooky, y'all.